I would just say that if you're coming into this conversation, you're listening, maybe you don't have much background in listening to people like you and I talk functional medicine strategy. Some of this may just go right over your head. You may just tune out because you're hearing these things which sound exotic and they sound rare, like H. pylori. I don't have that. Giardia. What the heck is that? Blasto. I don't have that. I just have bloating. The reality is these are very, very common things. The problem is the testing that's used in the conventional gastroenterology world is very outdated and very insensitive, meaning there's a lot of infections that go missed. And even if these infections are tested for, it's not likely that you're going to find an accurate result. And so, what we're talking about, these are not rare situations. You and I, between us both, we've seen several thousand clients and patients across the world over the last decade. And we can tell you that these issues are something we see every day, all day. So much so that, in fact, when I see a whole big list of infections on a stool test, I don't get shocked by it. It's like, yep, that's it. That's what we've got. So if you're listening to this and you're like, man, that's not me. I'm just bloated and tired. Well, there's a reason for that. And so I highly recommend you get tested, figure out what the heck you got going on, because if you're not testing, you're guessing. And if you're going and taking probiotics or random enzymes and you don't feel better, or you're confused about what you should actually be taking and not taking, and you're building up a supplement graveyard, it's time for you to get tested and figure out what the heck you're up against. And so if you need help, you can reach out clinically. Dr. J is at justinhealth.com. You can reach out and do consults worldwide. So we jump on a video call just like we're doing here, Zoom, FaceTime, Skype. We can look at your labs that you run at home and we can figure out what's going on and make you a game plan to get better. And if you need help, for me, it's evanbrand.com. And either one of us, Dr. J, Justin Health, evanbrand.com. We're here to help you. And the cool thing is you can reverse these issues and you can get to a point where you don't even recognize your gut health. I mean, if I look back at myself, even 10 years ago, I had such severe IBS. I did every diet under the sun and I made some progress, but it wasn't until I looked at my gut that I really made the magic happen.
100%. And so just to kind of highlight a couple things out of the gates, we'll put some links below as well to some of the lab tests that we recommend, whether it's the stool testing, whether it's the organic acid testing, which does look at bacterial and yeast metabolites. I love the organic acid because it's very good at picking up candida and yeast overgrowth, where a lot of times the stool testing will miss that. And of course, the breath test will not touch any yeast overgrowth. So it's nice to have, whether it's stool test, whether it's the GI map, whether it's an organic acid, whether it's a conventional lactulose breath test. These are all good tests. We'll put links down below. So if you guys want to look at getting some of those to start out of the gates, you feel free, you can. Also, I like to compare and contrast like what we do versus the conventional gastroenterologist. So most gastro docs, they're just trying to rule out significant pathology, significant disease. And so they may cross off the list by doing some kind of an endoscopy, which is camera down the mouth to look at inflammation in the stomach or the esophagus. And if they see esophagitis or gastritis, then you know what they're going to do. They're going to recommend some type of PPI or Gaviscon or some types of like a coating agent to kind of help reduce the inflammation, but they're not going to really fix the root cause. Most of the time, they pull you off acids, which may be helpful in the short run, but it's forever altering your ability to break down protein or fat. And it also can shift your bugs in a negative direction because now you don't have the good acidity to keep the microbes down. You need the acidity to activate enzymes. You need the acidity to activate your bile salts. So someone's jumping in on the questions here saying that, hey, they feel better on keto, but now they're feeling more constipated. Yeah, super common because what's happening is you're cutting out a lot of the foods that are causing problems, but you haven't fixed your digestion. You don't have enough acidity, enzymes, bile. There may be some bugs that are still impacting digestion. And this is why being on good proteins and fats can be helpful, but they also reveal weak links in your digestive chain if you're not breaking down food well. So just kind of getting back on the gastro doc kind of bandwagon, they're going to be looking at pathology, inflammation in the stomach, ruling out the big things like blood in the ulceration in the stomach. Usually you're going to know that because you're coughing it up or you're seeing it in your stool. If you have irritable bowel disease symptoms like Crohn's or ulcerative colitis, usually you're going to have significant inflammation in the stomach, usually significant diarrhea, blood in the stool. They're going to rule that out. And then what? And then for the most part, once the big pathology things, ulcerations, cancer, massive amounts of inflammation are ruled out, they're going to typically give you like an IBS diagnosis, whether it's IBS-D for diarrhea or IBS C for constipation, and they're going to just manage whatever those symptoms are with different drugs. So if it's constipation, They'll use laxatives. If it's diarrhea, they'll use things like Imodium or Pepto-Bismol or anti-inflammatories. They'll just try to modulate the symptoms with drugs, and that's it. And they're not going to really get to the root cause. They're going to just try to spot treat. And then that's where people come to us, because over time, those drugs become less and less effective. You have more and more side effects. You're not fixing digestion. You're creating more nutritional deficiencies, maybe more gut permeability issues, maybe more autoimmune stuff. And so these patients then come to us because they're just tired of putting band-aids over band-aids over band-aids.
Yeah, well said.